does take us into this next topic, which is that we are entering the stretch of the schedule that, in my mind, and feel free to disagree with me on this one, but in my mind, I think this is the toughest 3 game stretch of the entire season. I thought it when I looked at the schedule when it first came out, and I still think it now, even with Green Bay stuttering out of the gate. I think that these 3 teams in succession are going to be the toughest 3 for the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm looking at the schedule now, and I don't see a tougher 3 games. I really look at that Titans game as a scheduled loss, but it's
Right.
surrounded by the Falcons and the Texans.
Right.
So you can't go that route.
There
There
are
is a
some
tough,
rough
yeah,
road trips that happen. There's a
for
lot of
sure.
travel that and travel can mess things up for a team. It can have
Absolutely.
that game where they just look terrible and can't get off the ball at all. That's entirely possible. But strictly strength of opponents, this seems to be the 3 game stretch that's the toughest.
Yeah, the only thing that's close is probably November 7th and 15th. You go Cardinals and Rams, but
Right.
before that you've got the Bears, and after that you've got the Jaguars. So, you know what I mean? It's just it's not the Green Bay Packers. And
No.
as much as I think that Green Bay is ripe for the picking, I really think that the 49ers can do damage here. I just think they're a terrible matchup for Green Bay. This team is not as healthy at the running back position, and that gives me some room for pause. And Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron frickin' Rodgers.
Yes,
So
he
it's
is.
tough to just say that you're going to blow these guys out because Aaron Rodgers is still at the helm. And he proved last week that he's still pretty damn good.
Pretty damn good. I mean, he is one of the 3 elite quarterbacks that the 49ers are about to face off
Yeah.
against in the next 3 games. 3
Yeah.
elite quarterbacks, 3 potentially elite defenses. Elite may be too strong of a word to use there, but offenses. 3 very strong offenses, borderline elite. I mean, depending upon how Russell Wilson is able to avoid the pressure, that certainly has the potential to be an elite offense. When Aaron Rodgers is clicking, obviously the MVP of the league has the potential
Yeah.
to be an elite offense. And the Cardinals, anyone who doubted the veracity of that offense, I mean, they certainly have shown through the first couple of weeks what they can do. Some of the best wide receivers in the league coming up in this next 3 game stretch. It's just pretty crazy. 2 mobile quarterbacks with the 49ers continue to struggle with. 2 stud running backs and one with a bit more burst. And ironically, I think it's actually Edmonds that will probably have the hardest time with out of these 3. I feel like it is that extra burst in running backs that gives us fits. I don't think we have as hard of a time with the hard-nosed runners like Aaron Jones or Chris Carson.
Yeah.
But 3 decent defenses, and 2 of those are division games, and God knows those can go whatever direction. Crazy, they're bloody, they're physical. So I personally, and I said it earlier, and it bears repeating now, I believe that the 49ers would not have beat any of these 3 teams with the way in which they played in the first 2 weeks. The first one being just a colossal collapse that occurred. I think any of those 3 aforementioned teams would capitalize on that if we had those same mistakes that occurred at the end of the Detroit game. And I don't believe that you can spot any of these 3 upcoming teams a 1/4 advantage where your offense does bupkis.
Yeah.
Bupkis, I tell
Yeah.
you, for the first quarter. That just, to me, you're going to have these people jumping all over you. So, I mean, do you believe that the 49ers are set up for success in this 3 game stretch?
It I think the team is really good, Rob, but with the injuries at running back, at best, they've got 2 healthy guys going into this stretch.
Right?
At worst, one or both of them go down. That scares the heck out of me. And then I know for a fact that Jimmy cannot outduel these guys. He
Mm,
just cannot do it. And it's not a knock against Jimmy to say that he can't outduel 3 of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, that's
that's
not a
fair.
knock. It's just factual. And can he put together some drives? Sure. But when you put together a 15 play drive and then Kyler Murray or Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers comes out and scores in 2 plays and rips your heart out, can you then go back on the field, even if it's against a bad defense, and do it again, especially if that run game is not clicking? The answer to that is no. You cannot do that. You cannot rely on that all the time if you don't have the run game going. So I don't think that they're ready for this 3-game stretch. I really don't. I think Green Bay, they're certainly ready for. They might lose those next 2.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly in a couple of things there. One, that Green Bay is the best matchup out of this. I think you stated that very well. I disagree a little bit in and just a little in the idea of Jimmy not being able to outduel the other quarterbacks. The word can't is the one that sticks for me.
For sure.
I am just walking that back a little bit and saying he's highly unlikely to outduel any of those 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But I think there's a chance. I am not completely down on Jimmy. I don't think that the New Orleans game was an aberration. I certainly don't think it's the norm, but I think he's capable of it when all things go right. I'm not counting on it to be the case, but I think it's possible. So I'm in agreement that Green Bay is the cleanest matchup for the 49ers, just schematically how those 2 teams come together. Which of the other 2 do you think is the toughest matchup as we're looking at it right now, knowing that the injury situation could dictate who we're able to beat and who we're not able to beat? But looking at it as the team is constructed right now with health, which of the next 2 beyond Green Bay scare you more?
Arizona does. I picked them to finish second in the division, San Francisco to finish first, and I just think Kyler Murray's really, really good. A lot of people, he's not their cup of tea. I get that, but I had him as a top 7 quarterback going into this year. I think he may have even gone above that in some people's eyes at this point. I mean, he might be the league MVP in a short, small sample, but he's looking really, really good. And for whatever reason, they just play the 49ers tough. So Seattle does also. Obviously, Russell Wilson scares the hell out of me. He always has. But right now, I think I look at Arizona and I say they've got a younger version of Russell Wilson, and that scares me more than the current version of Russell. Russell's off. Something's off with him. He's looked good, right? There's been some amazing throws that he's made.
Yes.
But he's passing up on throws that I've seen him make in the past, taking hits that I haven't necessarily seen him take in the past. And stats would say that he's taking far more hits over the last couple of years versus what was actually there or what he was seeing. The offensive line hasn't been great, but he's done them no favors. And now I'm starting to see it unfold. There's a chink in the armor to me with Russell Wilson right now that I haven't seen in the past.
Interesting. I agree with you on which team is the deadlier of the 2, but I don't think that that I could say that it's Russell Wilson that gives me pause, only because what I have seen is the continued dimes that he throws, and I just can't doubt that guy. I just can't. He has continually broken our hearts. And is just so damn good. I will say that the dynamic between the way in which the teams match up for me leans toward Seattle being the easier matchup as well. That I think that we match up more successfully against Chris Carson style backs than we do against Chase Edmonds. I think that Kyler Murray is a step quicker than Russell Wilson. No doubt about it. He's just got that twitch that is so frustrating to watch and just a nightmare to defend. I can only imagine. And then the Cardinals have a pretty ferocious roster all the way across. And it doesn't seem that they have put everything together up to this point. It feels like they still have further to go. Now, I'm hoping that the lack of fantastic coaching, I'm not a big Cliff Kingsbury fan, I'm hoping that comes into play and you see a drop off from Arizona, much like we did last year. But that was partially, at least, to blame, was the injury that occurred to Kyler Murray. And so if he stays healthy this year, you would think that he'd be able to continue progressing. It's a tough call for me. I think that the 49ers are capable of beating either team. But with Seattle, it is that big brother syndrome. It feels like the 49ers have finally gotten physical enough to be able to knock them off. The week 17 when my wife and I were at that game, that was just incredible. I mean, a little bit sad in that last moment was ruined for us because the instant replay was coming. And so you knew that like maybe it wasn't going to be a happy ending. And like,
yeah.
You know, the inner Niner fan in me was like, oh shit, here we
go again.
Like, oh my God. Because I was in Seattle for that NFC Championship game too, when that damn Richard Sherman tipped that pass. And so I have memories of my heart sinking in that stadium that will live with me and haunt me until the day that I die.
Seattle is the luckiest team known to man, by the way. Like, let's be clear about that. Even last week, they should have lost before they actually lost. That was absolutely a safety. That game should have been over.
Yep.
The Titans had to. It's like, I swear they get gifted with teams having to just do that one extra drive or that one extra play that they shouldn't have to do. And most of the time it bounces in their favor. I was shocked that it didn't this last week. I really expected it to, but I've never seen a luckier team in my entire life. I just, there's something about them and Russell Wilson that there's just magic there for whatever reason. It's crazy.
If you watch the NFL films breakdowns of their games, they'll oftentimes pan to Russell, who then says something very convincingly to the rest of his offense, which is like, all right, let's go win this thing. And you just see the look in his eyes. And it gives me confidence as someone who hates him. And I can only imagine what it does to the rest of his teammates. I think he is willing them to a lot of those lucky finishes. It's something else to me. And to me, that's the difference between he and the Cardinals. It's the Russell Wilson factor that I can't get over. And until the Cardinals, who feel a little bit like the little brother in the scenario with the 49ers and Cardinals, much the way the 49ers felt like the little brother to the Seahawks during that era, I feel a bit more confident about the 49ers' ability to pull one out against Arizona. I think it'll be a hard-fought game, but I like that matchup a little bit more because I don't count on Kyler Murray for that type of magic that I see from Russell Wilson. All right,
Arizona, to me, you want to know why I as you were talking, I really put my finger on what it is about them that scares the hell out of me.
Yeah.
And why I'm taking them, because I know that it sounds like I just said that like Russell Wilson's finished. That is not at all what I meant.
No, and I didn't take it to be
No, I know that you didn't. I just want to be clear about that. Like Russell Wilson still scares the crap out of me.
Yes.
But Arizona is built. If there was a Kansas City West, it's Arizona. They've got the quarterback. They've got the receivers. They've got a running back who they could do without, right? Like they could care less if he gets 13 touches in a game.
Yeah.
They've got good pass rushers, but the secondaries, they've got a very good safety, right? Good safeties.
Yes.
But the corners are weak. I feel like they're built very similarly to the way that the Kansas City Chiefs are built. Now, Cliff Kingsbury is no Andy Reid. I understand that.
He is not.
But at the same time, Patrick Mahomes is a better quarterback than Murray, but he's no Murray as far as escapability. And that's where that difference can be and cause the 49ers a lot of problems. So I just feel like they're the closest thing to Kansas City. And Kansas City, to me, even if they were 0-16, if we were playing them in week 17, they would scare the living crap out of me. It's something about that team that obviously the Super Bowl, but that offense is so explosive. And that's what I'm starting to see from Arizona. It's like, you cannot count them out ever.
And if you look at what happened to the 49ers defense in week 1, if the wheels come off of the 49ers defense in a matchup against Arizona, good Lord, they will put up 45 points in the blink of an eye in the way that to me, it's a ferocious team. It's one that can't be counted out. To your point of being wildly talented, a lot of the pieces that they added on defense were in direct correlation to things that the 49ers do on offense, and therefore match up against us very nicely, having a lot of size and speed in their linebackers that can cover the majority of the field.